Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we will be taking a look at the stars in the past. We will be looking far into the past to take a look at the stars. A little bit of a change from looking into the future and giving you a preview of what's coming up in the sky or looking forward to upcoming eclipses. We only went a couple of years into the future to look at some of the upcoming eclipses in the eclipse video and to take a look at the retrograde motion of Mars in another video. So you can check those out if you'd like to see more time things. We're going to be traveling much further into the past here because that's something that Stellarium allows you to do. You can do really big time jumps with Stellarium. To start with, we'll get ourselves oriented with our modern day sky. It is very late in winter time, so we're going to have to push late into the night to make sure it stays dark if we do change seasons. Looking into the sky here, I'll bring up Orion. That's a nice famous constellation. So there's Orion, and we can see Orion's belt. Over here we have the square of Pegasus, definitely looking like a square. And I'll bring up the lines for these constellations. So these are the constellations as we know them today. We have shapes like Taurus there, Orion, Gemini. If we take a look back to the north, we've got Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, our Plough, and Big Dipper, or the Little Dipper over there. So these are shapes that are some of them quite familiar to us, and some of them, like the square of Pegasus, quite easy to see and recognizable for the shape they're meant to be. These names, Pegasus really comes from Greek, but through Latin. Names like Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, those would be Latin names that have been translated out of Greek. These come from, the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans. This is a very, very long time ago, at least 2,000 years. So let's start by jumping right back to year 0. And of course, the first thing we notice is that there's no light pollution. Before industrialization, before all of the big cities and the electric lights and street lights and cars, you really didn't have to worry about light pollution. A bunch of torches aren't quite going to do the same thing, and not many torches were left burning all night long. So we're looking back here, year 0 on the 5th of December. We can see that Mars is in a different place. We're not seeing Jupiter and Saturn. So over these very long courses of time, when you see the planets will change in many cases. Even though Jupiter and Saturn take a long time to orbit the sun, so they don't very noticeably change position in our sky over short periods of time, over the course of a few years you will start to notice that they move, and over 2,000 years they can be very different places indeed. But we're still seeing Orion, still the shape of Orion that we'd expect. If we bring ourselves a little bit closer to the time that we were at, or viewing the same time, we can see the square of Pegasus turning around into the northern sky. There's the Plough pointing at the North Star. There's the Little Dipper and the Big Dipper and Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. All of these shapes are pretty much the same. And this is 2,000 years ago. So this would have been, during the time of the Roman Empire, and these things would have been named in Latin. Mars would be Mars, Saturn would be Saturn. Nobody knew about Uranus because they didn't have telescopes yet. So 2,000 years ago, of course, things were pretty different, but not so much the stars. Now, with this, we can keep pushing back. The ancient Romans didn't create most of these constellations. They just renamed them in most cases. And those names originally would have been from the ancient Greeks. So that means we need to go before year 0. We need to go before the Common Era, BCE, and we're going to go over 300 years back. So this would have been back around the time of the formation of the Greek state, the collection of city-states banding together, eventually forming an empire. That would have been back, around 300 years before the Common Era. So this is 2,340 years before today. And things are pretty much the same. We can see Orion, we can see the square of Pegasus, we can see the shape of Taurus. Gemini still looks like a couple whole-like hands. We have the Plough pointing to the North Star. The North Star is still above the north. That's not as immutable of a fact as you may think. We're still seeing the same constellations. I might bring us a little closer to morning time because the constellations that we see in the morning, some of them are they're a giveaway as to what we can see. So we're seeing here Mercury in the morning. That's nice. Of course, this year we'd be seeing Mercury in the evening at this time. So, things do change. And there's the constellation Scorpius just peeking above the horizon, as it would be for us as well in the modern day. 300. Oh, that's 320, not minus 320. There we go. So that's, a jump of 600 years from one side of the 0 to the other side of the 0. And things are still pretty much the same. Seeing a little bit more of Scorpius there. We're definitely still seeing Gemini as a couple holding hands. Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, they all look fine. There's Cassiopeia still looking like a W. So this still isn't much. Human history is much, much older than the ancient Greeks. We've been around for a lot longer than that. So we can jump back way, way further, thousands of years back. So here we are way back in the year 3000. And we're seeing all of Scorpius from our position here in Ireland. Our position on the globe hasn't changed. We're still viewing things from here in Cork, but the way that the globe is tilted in space has changed. So as the Earth moves around the sun, we wobble. Our orbit precesses as we orbit around the sun. So that means the little tilt that we have, giving us summer and winter, that little wobble, the degree of that wobble can change over time. And it's believed to be connected to the ice ages starting and ending. So we're drifting back here 3,000 years ago. This would be back during the time of the ancient Egyptians, who were quite far earlier in our history than the ancient Greeks. For example, take a look at Canis Major there. It's got a little bit more of a chest. It looks a little bit off. Things are starting to look a little bit off here. The skin of the lion that Orion's holding, definitely getting a little bit wobbly. Let's take a look at the square of Pegasus. Still a square. That's okay. We've got that at least. Turning back around here to the north, definitely still the cloud, definitely still the North Star, but something is a little different. Now, I will turn off the atmosphere so the sun doesn't ruin our view at any point here. If we start turning around, we'll see that the North Star is inscribing quite a large circle in the sky. It's not resting almost in one place because where the Earth's pole is pointing has changed. We're pointing more over towards here than we are to the North Star. That's a change that the Earth went through. Those kinds of wobbles happen, and they will happen or continue to happen as we move into the future. Our North Star will change, and that's something that does happen over time. Let's make sure that the sun is out of the sky before I turn the atmosphere back on. Otherwise, we wouldn't see the stars anymore. There we go. We're going to move back even further. I do want to show how much these stars can change. So let's go back by thousands. So there we are at 1. We'll add a few zeros. If I change this to, goes back to 0 again. That's okay. We can just jump a bit more drastically. There we go. 6,001 years into the past. Still not too different. We're starting to see a little bit of a difference there at the front of Ursa Major, but a lot of the images are still looking correct. Now we'll do that again with 7,000, and the sun is practically up there at that time. Calendars do get a little bit wonky. We're moving so far back that the seasons might change, and we are after moving through quite a lot of time now, 7,000 years. We can move further back. We can get 9,000 years ago. And things are definitely changing in the sky, but still not by a crazy amount. Our North Star is pointed in a slightly different direction, quite a different direction by now, practically in Hercules. But a lot of the stars relative to each other are still pretty much the same. If we go far enough back, that will cease to be the case. I'm just going to change the days a bit here and get the moon out of the sky. And what we're going to do is add another 0. There we go. And everything looks pretty scrambled. So this is what's going to happen over very long time scales. Now, this 90,000 years ago, the human species was just migrating out of Africa, or just after migrating out of Africa. So these stars would have been very, very different, because we're talking about thousands and thousands of years more than the beginning of the Egyptian Empire. So if you go far enough, the stars will change drastically. But of course, we'll have to leave the future for a different video. Unless any of you invent a time machine, we're not going to get to see that in the real sky. But if you do, please let me know. And I hope that you'll join me back here next time for another video.